You meet someone, and something strange happens. Everyone else goes quiet. Not literally, but somehow they do. Other people can be smart, funny, beautiful, kind, interesting in every way that should matter, and none of it moves you the way this one person does. You do not choose this the way you choose a meal or a movie. It just happens. Your attention narrows. Your whole emotional world reorganizes itself around a single face. And here is the strange part. You cannot seem to feel that way about more than one person at a time. Not really. Not fully. So why does the brain do this? Why does love, one of the most powerful things a human can feel, insist on narrowing down to just one? For most of history, people assumed the answer was simple. This is just personality. This is just choice. This is just what falling in love feels like. But the wiring behind this goes back much further than modern romance, further than weddings, further than dating, further than language itself. It goes back to a survival problem our ancestors had to solve. And once you see the biology underneath it, falling in love stops looking like magic and starts looking like something your body was built to do. Start with the chemistry, because the chemistry is where the narrowing begins. When you spend time with someone you are attracted to, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical involved in reward and craving. Early attraction can feel a lot like a mild addiction because in some ways, it is functioning like one. Your brain treats this person as the source of something valuable, and it starts wanting more of them specifically, not people in general, them. Then, if the relationship deepens, two other chemicals move in: oxytocin and vasopressin. Oxytocin is sometimes called the bonding hormone. It rises during physical closeness, touch, and intimacy, and it seems to help the brain tag one specific person as safe, familiar, and important. Vasopressin plays a related role, and animal studies on pair bonding species suggest it is deeply tied to attachment and, in some cases, to protective and even possessive behavior toward a mate. Put together, these chemicals do something interesting. They do not just make you feel good in general. They make you feel good specifically in connection with one individual. Your brain is not just rewarding love. It is rewarding this love, with this person, and quietly making everyone else feel less relevant by comparison. This is why new love can feel so consuming. It is not simply that you like someone a lot, it is that your reward system has started narrowing its focus, the same way attention narrows when you are absorbed in solving a single problem instead of scanning a whole room. People in the early stages of romantic attachment often describe an almost obsessive quality to their thoughts, replaying conversations, checking a phone, feeling a small jolt at a name on a screen. That is not weakness. That is a reward circuit doing exactly what reward circuits do when something has been tagged as important. The difference between craving a person and craving anything else the brain rewards is mostly a matter of what gets tagged, not how the tagging works. But chemistry alone does not explain why. It explains how the narrowing happens in the brain, not why evolution would build a brain that narrows at all. For that, we have to go back much further, to a problem almost every early human faced. Human babies are extraordinarily helpless for an extraordinarily long time. Unlike many animals that can walk, feed themselves, or survive alone within days or weeks, human infants need years of intense care. They cannot regulate their own temperature well. They cannot find food. They cannot protect themselves from danger. Raising a human child successfully often required more resources, more protection, and more attention than one parent could easily provide alone. This created enormous pressure toward pair bonding. If two parents stayed closely attached to each other and both invested heavily in the same child, that child's odds of survival went up. A brain wired to fixate deeply on one partner, rather than splitting attention and resources across many, may have offered a real advantage in a species raising such demanding offspring. Compare this to species where offspring can fend for themselves almost immediately. Many reptiles, for instance, invest almost nothing in their young after birth, and pair bonding in those species is essentially non-existent. It is not a coincidence that some of the strongest pair bonding behavior in the animal kingdom shows up in species with long, dependent childhoods, birds that mate for a season or a lifetime while raising fragile chicks, and a small number of mammals that raise offspring too helpless to survive without two committed caregivers. Humans sit at the extreme end of that spectrum. Our children take over a decade to become even partially self-sufficient, and that is a length of dependency almost unmatched elsewhere in nature. Some researchers connect this to something called paternal certainty as well. In a world without paternity tests, a strong emotional bond to one specific partner may have helped reinforce commitment and investment in that partner's children specifically. None of this is romantic in the way we usually talk about romance. It is closer to an ancient logistics problem. How do you keep two exhausted, resource-limited parents cooperating long enough to raise one incredibly slow-developing offspring? One evolutionary answer seems to be, make them feel like no one else exists. So this is where the answer becomes tempting to simplify. Humans evolved to pair bond. Therefore, humans are naturally monogamous. Therefore, falling in love with one person is simply how our species is supposed to work. But here is where it gets messy, because that clean story does not hold up under real scrutiny. Human mating patterns across history and across cultures are far from uniform. Some societies have practiced strict lifelong monogamy. Others have practiced polygyny, where one partner has multiple spouses. Some documented cultures have practiced forms of polyandry, where one partner has multiple spouses of the other kind. Some human groups throughout history maintained long-term partnerships alongside other sexual relationships entirely. If pair bonding were a rigid, universal instinct, this variation should not exist. Instead, it looks like humans evolved a strong capacity for deep, narrow attachment, without evolution locking in one single rulebook for exactly how that attachment has to be arranged. Even within officially monogamous societies, human behavior is not perfectly consistent. Infidelity exists across cultures. Serial monogamy, moving through a sequence of exclusive relationships rather than one lifelong partner, is extremely common. Some people report feeling genuine romantic attachment to more than one person at overlapping times, which is part of why some relationship researchers separate the biology of attachment from the social and cultural rules layered on top of it. The chemical narrowing seems real. The specific relationship structure humans build around it is not fixed by biology alone. It is shaped by culture, economics, religion, individual history, and personal circumstance as well. Some anthropologists describe humans as only mildly, rather than strictly, biologically monogamous, closer in practice to species that form strong pair bonds, while occasional departures from strict exclusivity still occur. That framing fits the evidence better than a simple switch flipped to monogamous or not. It also helps explain something that confuses a lot of people. If pair bonding is real biology, why does it fail so often? Why do so many marriages end? Why do people sometimes develop feelings for someone new while still attached to another partner? The honest answer is that biology built a powerful tendency, not an unbreakable rule. Tendencies can be strong and still be overridden by circumstance, novelty, unmet needs, or simple proximity to someone new. This is the uncomfortable nuance at the center of the whole question. Evolution may have built a brain that is extremely good at narrowing focus onto one person once bonding begins. It did not necessarily build a brain with one single mandatory relationship rulebook. The narrowing is biological. The meaning we give it, marriage, forever, soulmate, is largely cultural. There is another piece worth sitting with. The same narrowing that creates deep intimacy can also explain heartbreak's brutal intensity. If your reward system has spent months or years tagging one specific person as central to safety and reward, losing that person does not simply remove a nice thing from your life. It can function almost like withdrawal. Some research on early heartbreak has found brain activity in regions associated with craving and reward disruption, patterns that echo what shows up during substance withdrawal. That is part of why heartbreak can feel physically painful and not just emotionally painful. Your brain built an entire reward structure around one person, and when that structure collapses, the wiring underneath does not disappear instantly just because the relationship did. This may also explain why people sometimes stay fixated on someone long after a relationship has clearly ended, checking old messages, replaying old memories, unable to simply redirect that reward circuitry towards someone new on command. A system built over months of bonding does not reset the moment it becomes inconvenient. It fades slowly, the same way it built up slowly through repeated exposure, new experiences, and time. So, why does love narrow down to one person instead of spreading evenly across everyone we like? Because narrow, focused bonding may have solved a very old problem. It kept two parents cooperating long enough to raise offspring who could not survive without sustained help. It rewarded closeness to one partner specifically, not people in general. And it created an emotional intensity strong enough to hold two people together through years of exhausting, resource-draining care. None of this makes falling in love less real. If anything, it makes it more remarkable. What feels like fate, what feels like choosing the one person in the world who understands you, is also the output of an ancient biological system built to solve one of the hardest problems our species ever faced, keeping a helpless new life alive long enough to grow up. The chemistry is ancient, the commitment is cultural, and the feeling that no one else compares, that is your brain doing exactly what it is designed to do, quietly convincing you that this person, out of everyone on Earth, is the one worth building a life around. Thank you for watching. If this helped you see something ordinary in a new way, hit like and subscribe. It's what lets me keep bringing these stories to you. Science is the real magic of creation, and there's always more of it hiding in what makes us human.